Welcome back to Super Castlevania 4. This is the section of the game where Mode 7 comes into play. Mode 7 was a type of graphics mode that was native to the Super Nintendo as well as the Game Boy Advance. It allows for background rotation as well as scaling. A lot of games use this technique, and I do mean a lot of them. Some better than others. This game in particular uses Mode 7 well. F-Zero is arguably the best use of Mode 7, and that was a launch game. And basically any Squaresoft game uses Mode 7 extremely well. But then there are other times where Mode 7 is not implemented well, like Contra the Alien Wars, or R-Type 3. Those games were kind of a mess to look at times. So Mode 7 can either be hit or miss depending on who uses it and what they're using it for, because a bad effect can look really bad. But also, a good Mode 7 effect could look really good, like in this game. Even though the knife is good in this game, I'm still gonna go with the cross. The cross is just better in every way. You might remember those green platforms from Castlevania 3, they tilt whenever you jump on them. There is more of them in this game than there ever were in Castlevania 3. This is the part of the game where the platforming gets a bit trickier, but I have full air control of Simon, so if I fall into a pit, it's most likely going to be my fault as opposed to the fault of the game's controls. This mini-boss right here, this guy is named Huaxo, which is backwards for licks you up. Okay then. His name actually does make sense though. He sticks his tongue out and shrapnel falls from the sky. You can actually destroy the shrapnel by sticking your whip up, but sometimes it doesn't work, so I just tank the hit and hit him in the meantime. That skeleton is chilling in the spikes. Even as a kid, I always thought that guy wanted to fall in there. For this section, there's subtle Mode 7 right here. It's just the background rotating. That's about it. But the next section is probably one of my favorite parts of the game in terms of graphics and the music. The music is just insanely good. But first you gotta fend off the Medusa heads, who in this game are not a problem because you could just hold your whip out and they'll run right into it. Just remember that the limp whip is it does less damage than the regular whip strike. The Medusa heads will go down in one hit with the regular strike. Holding your whip out will cause them to go down in two. I can only imagine what Simon is thinking. Actually, I know for sure. Fuck! This is what Simon is thinking throughout his adventures. He's just not ready for any of this shit. Alright, here's the best part of the game right here. Mode 7 activate. For this part, you have to keep pressing forward and destroy the skeletons who appear from the background. And also escape from the collapsing part of the bridge, which coincidentally stops collapsing whenever you get close to it. I don't know. But this is a game where Mode 7 is used really well. I mentioned before that some games just don't do it right. I think it's because they make the Mode 7 look flat. Ironically flat, because some games just don't bother to put texture on their 3D objects for some reason, and I kind of find that jarring. But here there's plenty of texture, so what was originally a two-dimensional object wrapped around to look like 3D is given a more three-dimensional look by comparison. It's hard for me to explain because I only took a novice course in senior year about video game development and I know so much about Mode 7. I'm more of a parallax scrolling expert myself, but when you get a chance, look up Mode 7. It's really interesting how they use this technique. This is one of my favorite tracks in the game. Up above are going to be more bone pillars, and then the boss of this stage. And also new to the Castlevania franchise, Candle Meat. Instead of moldy drumsticks, you got waxy drumsticks. How does Simon not get sick from all this shit? Alright, here's the boss of this stage. And I might have to put a photosensitivity warning on this because this guy flashes a lot whenever he gets hit. This guy is kind of berserk. He will throw rocks at you and rocks will fall from the sky. And he's kind of hard to avoid at times. You just keep your distance and throw boomerangs at him. That's about it. The next stage, you have to make it to the castle before the time limit runs out. And it's super strict. Well, not really strict, but you shouldn't dawdle for too long. Did I really just fucking say dawdle out loud? And also, this build-up music is really nice. Have a listen. Castlevania 4 is just the perfect Halloween game. I mean, you should play this game no matter what anyway, but definitely play it during Halloween time. It's fantastic. And if I'm not mistaken, I think it was released on Halloween. In Japan at least, it was released on the day of Halloween. This game in particular, as well as Symphony of the Night, has that spooky presence about them that no other Castlevania game seems to capture. Well, the original comes close, but that was more... I guess they were kind of hamming it up because of the end credits and their mock-up names. Who can forget about Christopher B, am I right? Alright, we just made it to the gates of the castle. This is the only stage in the game where there are no boss fights at all. You could argue level 2, but at least with level 2 you still got the Medusa boss fight and then there was just more stage behind it. Here, there's no boss at all. Knock knock, it's Simon Belmont and I'm coming to kick your ass, Dracula. This stage is very, very interesting. You got these zombie dogs who resurrect. They don't really die whenever you kill them. So I'm really not killing them. And also, before I move on, those statues in the background were covered up in the Castlevania 4 version, but in Dracula, they're topless, even though you don't really see details, they're just topless statues. So I don't know why they covered them up if they don't show actual nudity, it's just a flat surface. Again, Nintendo is kind of being Nintendo. Oh, one more thing. People see naked statues all the time. They're in parks, they're in museums, and people even see them in art class in middle school. So I don't get why Nintendo has to censor statues. They're just statues, but whatever. This stage reintroduces the good old Axe Knights, those lovable bastards who throw their axes at you and then they circle back around. They're easier in this game than in any other Castlevania game because your whip is just that versatile, and B, they're a lot slower than what they were in the originals. This part is kinda tricky. Mode 7, activate again. You have to work with the rotating chandeliers, and the platforms, from what I find, are they're a lot smaller than they look. Either that, or they're just moving with the chandelier, and that kinda throws me off. But again, another good usage of Mode 7. Usually games are a lot more show-offy with the Mode 7, but right here it's done more subtly. You want to be patient with these platforms, don't bum rush it, otherwise you'll just fall into the pit and die, and lose all your sub-weapons, which is a bummer. And now for the Ballroom, which is probably... I have a lot of favorite locales in this game. I was gonna say this is my favorite locale in the game, but I still haven't gotten to the torture room and the treasury room yet. So, yeah, I definitely have a lot of favorite locations in this game. And this right here is the secret room. You just have to break in one of the floor tiles in order to get to it. And goddamn my 30 frames per second. I'm not sure if you're seeing the dog and the owner. Well, there we go. You just have to whip the dog and the owner will start to sob. Kind of reminds me of Star Wars Episode 6 where the owner of the Rancor was crying over the dead Rancor. Honestly, why would you own a Rancor as a pet? That just makes no sense. I would figure it would eat you alive, but well, whatever, it's Star Wars. But that's a good place to stock up on sub-weapons if you need some, so I just got the crossback. Before I had the knife, which I don't really mind the knife in this game, but the cross is just instantly better. It's the best sub-weapon in the game, in my opinion. You got new types of enemies that are native to this level, and oh, what the fuck just happened to the screen right there? You got the ballroom dancers, one male, one female. The males would just come rushing towards you, and the females would just dance around the screen. And then you got these spotlight things, which I think they're called ectoplasm or something. They just go around the screen, and you can't outrun them. You're best off just whipping them. And that's another effect I think the Super Nintendo can only do. It's just those ectoplasm enemies, the spotlights. Contra 3 did it, and I think Chrono Trigger does it a lot too. It's just a colorful spotlight that gets larger and larger. The Axe Knights take 4 hits as opposed to the 8 hits from the original games, so hooray, the Axe Knights are actually kind of weaker, and by kinda I mean a lot, because 8 hits was annoying. I didn't notice this until I watched the videos back, but in the original games, whenever you throw a boomerang at an axe armor, it would just bounce off and fly back to you. But in this game, the boomerangs would just cut right through the axe armor, so that's another neat trick. This part you have to be careful on because some of the platforms crumble, and if you're not quick enough, you will fall into the pit and die. Spike pit. It's not a bombless pit, but either way, you just die instantly. But the skeleton is all fine and well, he can walk on spikes. And we also got another new enemy type, we got caskets which go down in 2 hits. Oh god, give me the candle meat. Plus 4 health, plus 1 salmonella. But here's another plus about Castlevania 4, this game has so many different enemy types that are unique to different stages that it becomes kind of puzzling how they could fit so many sprites into a game. But they also belong to one area, so you'll probably never see the caskets again after this. Here's another cool part right here. You got these grabby hands in the wall that will hold you in place for a skeleton to take a swing at you. You can either let the hands grab you and be quick enough to take a swing at the skeleton before it takes a swing at you, or you could just duck walk underneath the hands. The skeleton and hands are blinking, so they're not really there. They may appear like they're there, but that, again, that's just my capture quality. It sucks. You also got the Skeleton Knights who are not bound to the hands and will just strike you either way. Deal with those guys personally. I love the sound the red skeleton makes whenever it collapses, it's just a really comical sound effect. Speaking of which, there was one sound effect that was changed during the localization. The whip, it sounds a bit more metallic in the Japanese version, whereas in the American version it sounds more leathery. Now, I like the leathery sound effect better in the American version because it sounds like it hurts more. I don't know, I kind of dislike the metallic flank sound effect. That's one thing I'll give the American version props for over the Japanese version. A more painful sounding whip. Ow. Oh, that's what hit me. I was like, I just got hit by thin air, but no, it's the dancer. The ballroom dancers are back. And even the tables attack you here. Oh god, it's like Haunted Castle all over again. Oh, except there's no turkeys fighting you, so that's a good thing. Now, these ballroom dancers are not really that big a deal, they just follow you across the room. But they also foreshadow the next boss of this area, who has the craziest names ever made. And now get this. Paula Abdul and Fred Astaire. Yeah, who made these names? It's a play off the singer Paula Abdul and the late actor Fred Astaire. And look how badly I beat these guys with the cross.
Buster, straight buster.
Okay, no, seriously, those guys are a lot harder than they look. Their strategy is they'll fly around the room and they'll throw rapiers at you, which is hard to dodge, so best advice is take them out quickly. With that said, tune in for part 3 of Castlevania 4 where we see the biggest difference between regions, and also take a look at Dracula's bank. He sure loves to save a lot.